I'm gonna record this per Garrett's instructions.
Yep.
It's Garrett's world. I'm just living in it.
I have a question about the record. Does it record us on the video too, or is it just a verbal record? Okay, that's good.
It does. It does.
Just checking.
So John, you better like freshen up yourself there, because
Don't pick your nose on camera.
you're on candid camera. I think there's an option for us to just do audio, but we typically just upload it to YouTube and just call it.
No, I think it's wise because you guys like draw stuff and show stuff. So
For stuff like this, it's more like you could just listen to it because there's not as much visual, but some of the stuff is more visual. So cool. So today, Gigi's running our training. She's like, what? What? No, actually,
We're going to the pint room.
Geraldine and I were talking about what we thought might be helpful, and so what I wanted to do was really let the flavor of today just be a mastermind. I don't have an agenda beyond. I just want to talk about and mastermind around what you guys want to talk about and mastermind around. So I wanted to start with, and this is kind of open-ended, whatever your business, whatever you want a chance to get some advice on in your business. Would love to talk about what has been difficult in your business lately, or is there something that you just like some help or like some advice on? Beyond just me trying to give you some advice, this is a good place for us to go, man, what I've been struggling with in my business lately that I can first share with the group, be open and honest. Hi, my name is Tyler. And then this is a safe place here. What you say here will get recorded and put on YouTube. But yeah, so what, like, it doesn't have to be phrased as, man, I really suck at this, or this isn't going well. But is there something in your business that you just like some advice on, or you have a question or something that we could talk about and mastermind around? That'd be helpful for you guys.
What if we made a list? I'm sure some of them are
Sure.
all
Let's do it. I love it. Let's make a list first, and then we can let's make a list of some things that might be helpful for us to chat about. Man, I'd love if we talked about this. This has been difficult in my business, or I need more help with this. And then I'll try to do this so you guys can see that. So what's an example of something like that? What's an example of something like that? Boomtown leads. So what specifically were Boomtown lead?
conversion? Yeah.
Conversion? Boomtown lead conversion? Okay. Okay. All right. What else would be something helpful to chat about?
Getting people to buy cars, maybe. Like we've seen some houses.
Getting people to write offers?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Showing to offers. All right. What else? I don't know why I'm holding offers.
Okay.
You had mentioned like getting listings of offers.
Yeah.
So like
Well,
showing,
okay. That's why that's last. What do you? I mean.
Selling houses.
Oh, okay. I thought you
calling listings. So getting active
She
listings.
was just being, she was ignored that it said I had listed the old ones 7-7. And she's like, man, have you been in real estate long? I was like, why did you matter? We're putting down all this money.
He's all, I gotta be on this fucking thing with these people.
All right. Anything else? What else would be helpful to chat about, like in your business, even if it's something smaller?
I think I have a hard time when clients are a little bit unrealistic, even when I show them properties that like they could afford, maybe like, I don't know, having that tough conversation of like, okay, well, you really can't get everything you want. So, when they have like a list of 10 must-haves, you know what I mean? It's just like kind of unrealistic.
Yeah.
I have a conversation without pushing them away.
Sure. Okay, that's great. Yeah, we could definitely talk about that. I think that's a challenge we all run into.
Yeah.
For sure. That's the car I'm looking at getting right there.
The Honda Fit.
Yes. You guys see that little Camry
Yeah.
Corolla over there, that little green one? The 91? That's
You want the
what
Lexus GX?
Yeah, the GX460. Yeah, all right there. See, it's not a Nissan Murano.
Yeah, but it's like a 16 mile per gallon vehicle.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Oh.
An X5 turbo diesel.
That's what I'm looking
Toyota
for.
family.
Toyota.
Yoda.
It's like Toyota, but just
I'm
a
fine
little
if you go
classier.
Lexus.
Well, a lot
So
faster.
sorry.
Yeah.
People in Florida drive
Cayenne.
Toyotas.
Just go Porsche route.
Porsche. Okay, just get a
Toyota,
Porsche.
the number one best-selling car in Colorado this morning,
Hmm.
followed by
Not
Subaru.
surprised.
Number 2 for retaining its value also. Only
Toyota.
behind the
Okay, so besides obviously
FJ.
what type of truck you're gonna buy, anything
Yeah,
else?
I'd like to talk about which clients prefer which vehicles. more.
Yes, exactly, exactly. How to do business with people that drive trucks.
I would like
Four-wheel parts.
to maybe brainstorm around things that we can all be doing individually to get business outside of things that maybe the team offers, you know? So I think
That third pillar of your business. basically.
one of my goals this year is to be like a self-sustaining realtor, and so like I can get business that I need on my own, and the team is just like a supplement for that. So maybe, you know, things that we can all be doing that of course the team would like support us with, but things that we can do on an individual basis so that we're not just depending on the team.
Third pillar lead strategies. Okay, I think that's good. That's good. Anything else up here that we should throw as a potential topic to chat about, to mastermind around?
I feel like
Maybe
we
how
could
to keep
spend a
your-
lot more.
Mindset, right?
Mindset?
Yeah.
Tyler's not very good with that.
Tyler's like, just do your fucking shit, dude.
I would like a 10-minute daily Tyler's Monday morning motivation.
Love it. That already happens. Facebook Live. Just check it out.
Yeah, I think so.
You see this award, right? Most likely
You're gonna get that whether you want it or not, brother.
Yeah.
I meant to watch one this morning and I missed it.
Sometimes he'll open up Zig Ziglar's book in the office and read some
Yeah, just read some stuff
motivational quote.
Yeah,
Really get the team going.
yeah. Basically, it's just
Do the dang thing.
Whoever-
Tyler.
basically whoever drove me crazy the day before. I just recorded a video about it. Indiscriminately.
Weeks.
All these stupid people in Phoenix don't know what the heck they're doing. Okay. Mindset. Anything else? This is good.
Yeah,
kind of jumping off point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's check that.
So, all right. So, what do you guys? I mean, do you guys have one of these topics you'd like to talk about first? One of these in particular.
I would like to add that for the motivation, I noticed that like I was kind of having a lack of motivation in my business, and so I started reading a lot of books, like or listening to a lot of books on tape,
Yeah.
and that's helped, help me feel more confident in the skill set to make things happen. I don't know if that helps.
You're saying from the mindset perspective? Like on
Yes.
that one? Okay.
Are you reading like motivation books or like real estate books of like how to do a buyer's appointment better, or are you?
So right now I'm reading a book about negotiation.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's, Tyler, what was that title I told you?
Oh man. Gosh. Oh man.
It's by Chris Voss.
Yes.
Never Split the Difference.
Never split the difference. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And he was an FBI negotiator. And I was listening to him. And before that, I was listening to Like She Owns the Place, which is by a woman who used to work with MTV. And she was talking about how to sparkle and own yourself. You know what I mean? What's up, Mark?
Buddy. Mark Moratti.
Mark's like, are we talking about sparkling?
We're talking about sparkling, Mark. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about being a sparkly person, letting your sparkle shine.
What is it? Never Split the Difference, and what was the other one?
It's let me look on my phone. I do it through audiobooks.
Like She Owns the Place?
Yeah, Like She Owns the Place.
Okay.
And then I also did the one that Tyler had recommended before. What was that one? Gosh, something about levels. Here, let me just pull it up real quick. I'll tell you all the
Five
one.
Levels of Leadership.
Yeah.
5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. We're going through that right now on the ALC committee. I think
Yep.
5 Levels of Leadership is an excellent motivational and leadership book because it just talks about the ways in which we lead others and like where we lead from. Do we lead from a position? Do we
Oh, there you go, Mark.
because there you go, Mark's kind of holding up right there. So I think that's good not only like if you're leading agents, but also like in how you lead your clients. I think that it's good, good motivation.
No, for sure, because if you want someone to trust you, it talks about like, I don't know, leading them in that kind of way. But yeah, so, and then I also read Sell It Like Sirhan,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
which is, a real estate book. He's got a huge team in New York, Gigi, and he was on, look at you, Mark. We should just ask what Mark reads. Mark, share your top motivational or like helps you get back on track with real estate, maybe stuff that you've read that's helped you hone in on your, different things that you, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not leading.
No, that's good. I think basically so talking about mindset, I think one of the things you're offering, Bridget, is reading is a great way to keep your mind right. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to be like a rah-rah motivational book. I think literally just reading about people who are having success and who are doing success it encourages you like, okay, yeah, this, like, I can do this, like this does work. And I think it also raises your bar of expectations, right? Like when you're reading a book, it's sort of like you're hanging out with that person, And so it's like you're kind of raising the bar of like what you expect from yourself. And so I think that's a great way. Like
I guess it does. It is a lot like you said, like you're right there next to them. And so if they're reading it to you and it's the actual author, then you feel like they're almost coaching you for the time, I guess is how I kind of feel about it.
100%. Yeah, you kind of learn them. And what for a mindset perspective, since we're on it, like what else do you guys do from a mindset perspective, like to try to keep your mind right, to like be able to show up and just have the right frame of mind in order to slay all day?
There's a Spotify channel when I'm feeling real crazy, and it's called, I think it's just like motivation playlist. And it goes through like Eric Thomas, Gary Vee, like all of the, like the top 5 motivational speakers of like basically just like snapping your mind back to what you need to be.
Okay. Spotify playlist, like search motivation or whatever. There's motivational stuff on Spotify. And I was gonna say the other side of the coin, like music can really help me too.
Yeah.
And I'm late at night and like I know I got to get some shit done and I don't want to. Like if I turn on music, typically it'll help me like get stuff going. Not to state the obvious, but caffeine too. Like like
All about that.
what?
I'm really big on the Shark Tank. Like, it's my absolute favorite show in the world. I follow all 5 of the sharks on their podcasts.
Oh.
And, I mean, like I said, it's not necessarily all real estate related. Almost none of it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes part of conference. Just to hear that there's other seemingly average people coming up with insanely creative ideas and taking it to huge levels of success.
Yeah.
It just says, it doesn't take special, it just takes doing. So that's just sometimes just real quick.
Yeah, business is business for sure. Like when you start to run a successful business, you start to really understand that it's all the same principles. You're just selling different product or service. Okay, so podcasts.
Yeah.
Specifically for you, the people like the sharks on Shark Tank, following those.
I listen to the Andy Frisella podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that guy's the boss.
He's good. Yeah, some good people to follow on Instagram if that's your thing.
That new kid.
Andy Dane Carter is a really cool guy to follow. And out of LA, real estate and investment related. Tyler Harris.
Tyler Harris.
Yeah, Tyler Harris, someone that we follow. He's good. Gary Vaynerchuk is really good in that regard. Grant Cardone is good in that regard. Good people to follow. They're going to constantly put out like just stories and motivation that pop up in your feed.
I like Tyler Harris's story too. If you guys haven't heard it, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So what else from a mindset perspective helps you guys?
Depending on your faith, for me, sometimes if I just find myself being super stressed out and unable to focus on anything, it just takes 10-15 minutes to just record with the jam, in the car, full blast, and then just reset.
Yeah, I think for me, like in that regard, every single morning, like I will pause, like before I do anything, and like drink coffee, and I'll read through the Bible or do my devotion or have a prayer time. But I think for anyone, like regardless of where you're at, to like start your day with like just like pause and like you time time before you jump into like looking at your emails and looking at Facebook and all that crap. Like, it can be discouraging to start your day to roll over and start looking at all the emails and the shit that's already piling up, you know. But if you start just with like, I'm gonna drink my cup of coffee, I'm gonna sit down, just have some me time. That's big for me. When I find myself kind of going by the wayside, I know I need that morning time to kind of recenter. Yeah, that's good. I would also, last thing I'll just suggest is gratitude. Gratitude is a super powerful tool. And so anytime that you guys are getting stressed or getting whatever or feeling down in the dumps, like literally to pause and to write down 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for in your life right now. Like gratitude is a powerful, powerful tool. It's just so powerful to sit around and go, man, I'm stressed about this thing. Man, like that's a problem that I get to have, you know? And so a lot of times just pause and go, man, but I have this, and this in my life and I'm grateful. So I think that's a powerful tool. Gary Vee talks about that a lot. Gary Vaynerchuk, gratitude. Anything else on mindset?
Honestly, the most simplest thing is something that we all should just know is just bold laws.
Yeah.
You know, I recite those to myself so many times throughout the day. And my biggest one is what you focus on expands.
Yep.
And I just immediately will change what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And to no longer focus on that. I know it's just going to enlarge that issue or whatever.
Yeah, that's good.
And all the same things with bold laws. They're not specific to Title Lanes. Everybody and their mom has those same laws anywhere of success.
Yeah.
My favorite book that expands most on them is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind
Mm-hmm.
from T. Harv Eker.
Yeah.
My most favorite books in the world.
Mm.
That just takes all those bold laws and just puts them in a whole different,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
to where I almost live by that book, which just reinforces all the bold laws.
That's good. I mean, you're going through MREA right now, Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful to go back through that. Like, so funny teaching my class yesterday, like someone was like, so you keep saying MREA, like, is that like actually something to follow? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, yes, this book is written, it is still relevant. It is like, most of you guys are like, want to be creative instead of just like follow a plan. And so that was like the basic of like my Facebook video this morning is like, everyone's like, just, they want to hear what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. What you need to hear is like, follow the freaking plan until like you've made $1 million and then get creative.
The MRA is pretty powerful. I don't know who on our team is like actually read through it and took time to understand what he's actually saying.
The first part is super powerful. The first part is all think a million. It's all mindset. But my picture is what the hell is my picture on that board? My picture is just on the TV in the lobby. I'm not sure why. Okay. But the first part is all think a million. It's super, super powerful. And all throughout MREA is just stories of people that are like succeeding in closing deals. And so like it's powerful to read. Okay, so that's mindset. What's the next one we should talk about? What do you guys want to talk about?
I think going down the list in order kind of all leads into the go from boot town lead conversion, which helps you into showing the offers, which shows into selling listings.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And then goes into unrealistic claims.
And then you have unrealistic clients. Okay, so is there something in particular you guys have been struggling with or something that's been tough for you in terms of Boomtown lead conversion?
I've had a lot of people that say like they're just looking, they don't live in this state, which is not a big issue, you know. I don't know that you can convert those people, but it just seems like this past couple of weeks I've had a few people that are like, I live in Maryland or I live in Virginia, and I'm like, cool. See you later.
The great thing with that is just asking, well, what's prompting you to look in Colorado? Is there an ounce of it that maybe wants to be here?
Yeah.
He's looking at a possible job aspect and just start the rapport with them. Then so maybe they actually do end up moving. Like I've been living up here for 5 years and finally came.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's a few people that respond to my messages that are like, one guy's like, we're looking up here for when we retire in like 5 years. Another lady was like, I just like the look. My family lives over there.
Yeah.
So maybe like coming up with something of like you said, you know, like well, what has you looking like? Why pick Denver? Because just proves houses for some interest there.
Sure. What is your thought on that, Natalia?
The just listings that I get are in the state. Like, I get some that are out of state, but a lot of people are like, I'm just looking for fun, and then I just open it up and just try, if I call them and I get them on the phone, I just try and keep them on the phone for as long as possible. And so I'll just say, like, are you looking, like, are you renting right now? Are you already a homeowner? And then just saying anything to keep them on the phone so that they can have a conversation they remember with me, as opposed to like, okay, that was 30 seconds, I'll never remember this person again. So then sometimes, and then they'll start to open up about that. Like, this woman was like ready to hang up the phone, and she's like, I'm just renting. No, thank you. Like, she just thought I was like a sales caller. And then I was like, oh, cool, where are you renting at? And when's your lease up? And she's like, oh, well, we're trying to get out of it right now. We have mold in our house, and our landlord won't fix it. And I was like, what? I was like, you can report that, guy. And I was like, here, let me get you the website. And I like looked up the website for her, and like just anything that they say, just like, yeah, talk to it. And just make me feel like you're their friend.
Yeah, so the note from that is like, it is probably way more important to be pushing for that meaningful connection, and meaningful relationship, than it is to be like trying to push into the next part of the real estate process. And so like, if you, like the first and foremost, you got to make sure you have that meaningful connection and relationship, so that then they're speaking honestly with you about it. Because I think a lot of people are probably saying, I'm just looking. Part of that's truthful, and part of that's probably just, yeah, they're just trying to push you off the phone. Like, they just think that you're just another sales call. So if you try to push it past that, yeah,
And I've had people say that they're just looking, and then I find out their lease is up in 4 months.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you're not really just looking then. You need to be sitting down with somebody. And then I did the Tyler, like, have you sat down with someone? So
I think that's a huge part of that. It's just a lack of education in the general buyer's world. They don't realize how long it's going to take to find something and close on something,
Yeah.
They're just looking for now, I got 4 months, and they're going to think that, looking 2 to 3 weeks before they move out, like they can with most rentals. So I think that's huge, to push that to say, actually, you need to be looking today if your lease ends in 4 months.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I would just say, like, in auditing the numbers in terms of Boomtown conversion, the people that convert the best on our team and Boomtown leads, it's not necessarily that they get a hold of more people. So it's not necessarily that they are better at getting someone on the phone. It's that they maximize it when they get someone on the phone. And so I don't think it's about like, I need to get a hold of more people, or I need to have more conversations. I do think it's when I get someone on the phone, I need to have as deep and meaningful conversation as possible. And so I think it's really just like every time someone's willing to talk, to try to take it that next step, because when you have that meaningful conversation, then you build that connection where they're going to work with you. It's just a matter of time, which I think that's true. What else from a Boomtown conversion perspective, like what are you guys doing that's working for you?
I've been calling in the morning, like the new category. I call them in the morning and don't leave a voice message, and then I call them in the afternoon.
Okay. Call them in the morning, then don't leave a voicemail. Call them again in the afternoon. Try 2 different times a day and figure out if you can get a hold of them. Okay.
Voicemail the second time?
Yeah.
Voicemail. Call the first time, no voicemail. Call the second time, afternoon, leave voicemail. Okay.
Yeah, like 6:30.
Okay, so like evening time. Okay.
Because of the system, I didn't answer. You would just send a text message if I could. So
Finally, on a trip is always good. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Sorry, what was that? Say that again, Johnny? Oh, that cut out there.
Don't give up, John.
Being passive, I usually set them up on a search, and then they seem to come back to me. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
It was cutting out there a little bit, but you said like the more passive approach, like setting them up on a search and then kind of waiting for them to jump back on the website. Oh, you're typing it up. Yeah, all right. On a search. Yeah, so John's saying one of the most important things that helps is just making sure they're set up on a search, set up on a good e-alert. And that is, I do think, like, the best thing that you could possibly do is have them set up on a good e-alert, because that's the funnel that's going to lead back to you at some point, right? And then that e-alert, then as they're looking, that gives, and then on top of that, that gives you excuses to reach out. or they looked at it probably for a second or third time, I can reach out, So yeah, I think that's very powerful.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I like using the text function inside of Boomtown, and what I found is I'll be just hanging out watching a baseball game in the evening and just strike up a text conversation with somebody, and it seems to work really well. I don't know why people seem to want to respond via text rather than phone call, but such is the day and age in which we live, I suppose.
Yep, 100%.
Notice I had more luck texting Boomtown than I have talking.
Yeah. I think the reality of responding to a spam text is it feels a lot less committal. Like I don't necessarily like I'm trying to get off a phone or something, so I can just text you something.
Well,
Because
there's no links attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you text, I click it and then
Yep.
page.
Yeah. John says he had someone from 2 years ago reach out and they need to buy and sell just because they were on a drip and they were on that campaign, And so I think I do think it's trying to have meaningful conversations when you see they're looking on the website. I also think there's that balance of like, if someone's not interested or they're like, I'm just looking, then you also want to try to just move on from that too, So there's that balance of like converting someone to buying now versus just trying to figure out if they're ready or not. And so I think it's really just auditing, like asking deeper questions about them and their situation to determine if you think they're in a place to be able to buy right now or not. And if the answer is no, I just feel pretty strongly like conversion is not about like getting someone to buy that was never going to buy. It's more about like being there ready whenever they are. And so it's just about asking the deeper questions to know if they're ready or not. Because they may not know if they're ready or not. They may think, no, I got plenty of time. My lease expires next month. What are you talking about? Should have been under contract a month ago. So I think it's just, building that connection and asking those deeper questions can help for you to help them determine, are you ready for us to have a conversation? And then having that surprised look, like whatever they say, oh man, well then we should sit down because you need to make sure you start talking about this and game planning so you'll be ready. So yeah, that's good.
I think, whoops, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I think one of the things that I do pretty much every time is definitely say, well, my clients like to meet with me 1 to 2 years before they're ready to make a purchase. So I think that can make them feel like they're behind the game. And so they need to meet with me. It like makes them have that like sense of urgency.
Yeah, that's the same thing that you were talking about is regards to the timeline, like, oh, wow, have you met with someone yet? Oh, you haven't? Okay, well, you should definitely do that. At this stage of the process, clients definitely like to sit down and make a game plan and get their questions answered so they're ready when the time comes. And that's a lot of.
Sorry, I missed that.
No, that's great. That's great. That's perfect. Anything else with these leads? Okay. The only thing is I would just really, really, really stress the importance of the Now tab. I also believe the people that have the highest conversion rate are not necessarily the people that are cleaning out their to-dos every single day, but are certainly the people that are checking that Now tab every single day. And so I think that ideally you do both, but you need to start with the Now tab. That is your biggest opportunity. Just understand that a to-do is a predetermined system taking a guess as to when they might need to hear from you, right? A Now tab is information based on their current activity saying they need to hear from you right now. So like now is where you should start. And then you should move to the to-dos. And even with the to-dos, like, listen, I know we get behind on to-dos, whatever. As you're going through those, like, not all to-dos are created equal, and it's something Bridget and I have talked about a lot, is like, listen, if you got 200 to-dos and you're not going to get them done today, then like, what are the 50 that you need to do today, right? And so as you're going through that and just kind of looking at it, like, all right, which one is important? And as you look through, you'll know. You look at them and go like, all right, this person's really wishy-washy, whatever. I think just understanding those things, that's, again, that 80-20 principle. Like 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your effort. So what's the 20% you need to do overall? What's the Now tab? Well, within your to-dos, what's the 20% within the to-dos? Well, the people that most need to hear from you, that are most ready to go, right? And so I think that's an important process because what we don't want to happen is the paralysis by analysis. Like, I have so many to-dos, so I just do none of them.
Yeah.
Well, but if you have permission to go in and do the 20 that matter most, go do that. That's where you're going to get most of your results. And I think that's really the people that are converting the highest. Like, they don't necessarily have it to do that every single day, but they are checking them out. They are doing the most important to do. And I think that's gonna lead to success there for sure. So, yeah, we have several people on the team converting at 2% or higher the lead. So, I mean, it's a good opportunity there for sure. Anything else with Boomtown Lead? No. Okay. Let's move to showings to offers, getting someone to write an offer. So the situation is they're looking at properties with me, but they are not writing offers. So what do we do? What have you guys done recently that's helped you?
My favorite thing I do with clients that can't seem to make up their mind is I tell them the 85% rule, to say that in life, we're never going to find everything that exactly what we're looking for. Even if you build from the ground up, you're going to finish and say, damn it, I wish I still would have done this.
Yeah.
So if you find a house that meets 85% of the criteria that you're hoping for in a house, jump on it, because that's usually as good as you're going to get with finding a house, especially when it's inventory. And that's usually working pretty good, because it helps them realize, oh, you're actually right, I'm not going to get everything I want. You know, yeah, this one is good enough. And then I always use pain versus pleasure too.
Was that what you talked about when you talked about the scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, but 1 to 9.
Yeah, like 1 to 9 because you'll never find a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
That's, I mean, and that's about expectation setting from the beginning, right? Like, you're never going to find the perfect house. So, yeah. Or the perfect what? What did you say?
The perfect man.
Oh, the perfect man.
The 10 doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You can't be over 6 feet tall, with mommy issues.
Those ones are already taken. Sorry. We're gonna talk about that. You gotta get them the second time around.
Yeah.
Second time around. Yeah. Recently divorced. Or something.
Wait for the second.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, once everyone's fresh
Yeah.
to divorce, I'm in it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Also, there's no kids.
not sure how that relates to what we're talking about now, but I'm glad we had that conversation. Okay, so first and foremost, you guys both, and I know like Bridget has said this in the past, like, not Bridget, Natalia, I've said this in the past, like, you're auditing basically, how does this house fit on a scale of 1 to 10, but you're also setting the expectation that there'll never be a 10. If you're waiting for a 10, it's not gonna come around. So if it's an 8 or a 9, like, let's talk about writing. If it's 7, let's talk about it, you know, so, yeah. What else? Remind them of timeline that they laid out, push the issues a bit. Yeah, so when they, you know, you're saying, hey, remember you said you wanted to be in a house by this point, we're around that time, you know, we're gonna need to be getting under on something if that's the timeline you're wanting to hit, right? So remind them of like the things that were important to them. Timeline is probably one of them.
I just ask why not, and then based on their answer, it could be they think going and doing a showing equals I want to write an offer on this house. And you're like, then you can put that aside and say, oh no, showing just helps give you a feel for the house. You know, I'm not going to force you to offer anything, or it can be the more aggressive route, or just remind them of what they told you, like you just said. But sometimes just asking to discover.
Yeah. So first of all, being able to establish the question. So what do you guys think? Is this the one? Like, first of all, just saying, do you like this house? Like, would you want to put it in an offer? So first of all, just literally asking the question. And second of all, if they say, I don't think so, then asking them, why not?
Yeah.
So asking those two questions, it seems really funny, but the fact that you just said that made me understand, probably most of you, people aren't writing offers because you're not asking them if they want to write an offer. Like, you're not literally just asking them the question.
With tying in unrealistic clients to this whole thing, with setting up like my 85% rule, that's why I tell them up front too, is at every house, even if it's not for you, I'm still going to ask you, do you want to write an offer? Because I'm going to get you into the habit of when I ask this the right one, you're going to be trained to say yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They also said in the chat, the market also dictates. If you really like something, someone else probably does also, it will be gone when you make up your mind. So we need to try to jump on that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I tell them that every time before we
Yeah.
actually go out and see houses. Like, if you like it, guaranteed you're not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The house that you want to think on tonight is the house somebody saw yesterday and thought on today.
Yep. Yep. That's good. That's good.
But again, like my favorite is always pain versus pleasure. You know, especially if they've told me if my lease ends in 60 days, I can go month to month, but it's going to cost me an extra grand a month more. All right, is the pain of having to pay an extra grand more per month worth you not having an extra half bathroom in this house?
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
when you start getting to think about it, or is the pain of you going to be homeless in 30 days worth you not having exactly what you want in this house?
Yeah, that's good. That's good balance. Yeah, talk through it. That's what we talked about initially in the consultation, like when you're first chatting, asking them, that's what we talked about last week, like asking them not just the positive of like where you want to be, but also like what's the negative about the current situation you're trying to get out of. And Bridget talked about that. And so when you ask that question and you know that up front, you can come back to that and showing, like, remember you said you wanted to get out of that. So what's more important, like getting out of that and being okay with one less bathroom, or you okay dealing with that until we can find one more bathroom? That's good. Maybe in another situation.
Yeah, you use their situation against them. They're the one that came to you with that problem.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the things that I think is incredibly powerful that I think you all need to be doing is when people are evaluating real estate, they're evaluating it from two perspectives. They're evaluating, does this work for my family? Is this a good fit for us? And then they're also thinking, is this a smart investment? They need you to tell them that it's a smart investment. They need you to be telling them that so then they can just determine if it's good for their family or not and feel good about that. And so like when I've audited people that do showings and get people under contract at a high level, like Nick, like Matt, like myself, I know when I do showings, all of us, what we do every single time is when we're walking around the house, I'm not helping them figure out if it's a good fit for their family or not. They can make that decision on their own. The entire time, what all three of us do as I've watched us is we always talk about the smart investment they're making as we walk around the house. Oh man, that development right down the street is going to be a great area. And oh man, this price is great. And if it's not a good investment, tell them that too, so they can move on, right? But if you just kind of add those subtle notes as you're walking around, like, oh man, look at this view. Like I talk about resale. I talk about, man, a lot of buyers like this, a lot of buyers like this. If you let them know by the time they're done and make them feel solid about the investment they're making, then their mind is freed up to only think about it from their family perspective. And then when you're asking that, what do you think on a scale of 1 to 10, then you can say, it's definitely a sound investment. So what do you think for you and your family, right? And so I think that's big as you're doing showings so that you're freeing up their mind to go, oh, okay.
Yeah, how do you handle that, maybe the objection that comes up with, isn't the market pretty high right now? So am I overbuying this house right now to know that we're going to turn anyways? How can this possibly be an investment?
Yeah, I think it's blunt honesty. Like, so I always, like, anytime I take an approach like that, I don't want to go on and say, yeah, but. And so I just start with, you're totally right. At some point, the market's going to go down. The good news, though, is that long term, the market always goes up. We're way higher than the highest it was at before the last crash. So what you need to determine is how long are you going to be in this house. And so if you're only going to be here a couple years, we need to find a house with a lot of equity. We need to find a really good deal so that you won't lose your shit when you're selling it in 2 years. But if you're looking to be here 5 years or longer, then it's just irrelevant because the market will be backed up by that point. It doesn't really matter. And so that's kind of the approach that I take, and I just kind of say honestly. And so I didn't, and remember, I didn't say, okay, then don't buy if you're going to sell in 2 years. But it's nothing. We just need to find some good equity. You don't want to overpay if you're going to sell in 2 years and try to make a profit, or otherwise in 2 years you're just going to have to rent it out. You know, if you're going to move somewhere else. So that's usually my approach to that. But yeah. And the only other thing I'll say, quite obviously, that we've talked about recently, there is power in getting someone to write a bad freaking offer. Like there's power in, like, if someone says, you know, and like the next question after the why not can be, okay, well, at what price would you like this house? And if the answer is, I just don't think I would want it. Okay, then it's not yours. But if they're like, well, you know what, if they would give me 10 under list price, then I might want to offer. Well, whether that's going to win or not, get them to write it. Because then the next time they're going to be that much more likely to write another offer. And sometimes their expectations are off. Like sometimes you've prepared them too much. And so they're like, listen, I just don't, it's not worth 10 over asking price to me. And you're like, it's been on the market 20 days. We could offer 10 under and you're probably still fine. And they're like, oh, well, that's the case. Then yeah, I want it, you know? And so the why not could be followed up with, well, what price would you want? And if the answer is, I don't know, then they just don't want it. But if they can put a price on it, and it's the same question you ask when you're qualifying a Boomtown lead up front. If you found the dream house, when would you buy? And would you just kind of make them put a number on it? It becomes up to them. So when they can give you a time, well, if I found it, I'd probably maybe 6 months. Okay, well, now buying is real to you. Same idea. Offering is real to you if you say, at what price would you want to buy this house? If they can't give you a number, they don't want to buy it. And if they can, then maybe. So that would be a piece of advice from me on that. Okay. Let's, where do we want to go to? Unrealistic clients? You guys want to talk about that? Unrealistic clients. How do you guys deal with unrealistic clients?
I like finding out what it is that they actually want, what are the non-negotiables, and then sending them that regardless of the price that they've given me. So if they tell me, look, I'm moving here from Texas and I want to be no farther than 20 minutes from downtown, and I want to be on a half-acre lot with a 3-car garage and 3,000 square feet, I'll send them that in various parts of the city and say, this is what it's going to cost you to have those criteria met within your 20 minutes from downtown. And then start the conversation from there.
That's great. Sam says that's the property brother approach.
That's the what?
The property brother approach on HGTV.
Oh, is it?
You know, walk them in there. Oh, you want all this stuff? Here, it's $1 million. No, that's super smart. That's super smart. So to reiterate that, basically, if someone gives you a criteria, you know they're not going to get in their time frame. The way you're going to let them know they can't afford that is by just sending them those homes regardless of the price point. This is what it's going to take to buy something like that. Okay.
And then perhaps say, okay, if you want to be within 40 minutes or 35 minutes from downtown, you know, then perhaps it becomes more realistic. So if they're looking in Littleton and they want all of that stuff, I'll send them something in perhaps Castle Rock or something like that and say, you can find that here for that amount, but your commute, you know, expands.
So it's kind of exploring the different, like, instead of just saying, would you be willing to expand that? Some people might just say no.
Finding out what's non-negotiable.
Yeah, so what you're doing is you're saying, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you examples of stretching your criteria in different areas. Here's an example of stretching your criteria in price. Here's an example of stretching it in location. And then you like show them the examples and they're like, oh, I didn't realize, yeah, there's some nice places. Maybe I would consider that.
Exactly that, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
feel like that's a much more passive approach without having to have a tough conversation. You let them come to their own conclusions.
Yeah.
What kind of pushback do you get on that, Mark? Because I was thinking about doing that after listening to Sell It with Sirhan, because I know that like that's a technique that he uses to get them to realize, you know, things. Do you find success in that, or do you find like your clients get mad at you because you're not showing them what they told you they wanted to see?
Well, no, I'm actually showing them what they wanted to see, but just explaining that, you know, it's going to cost them either a little bit more, or they're going to have to go a little bit farther out to find that. And what I have found is, you know, they appreciate the help in the education of the market, so to speak.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so who is that?
Mark?
So Mark, is that something you're explaining to them up front, what it is you're doing, or do you just set it up and let them figure it out on their own?
No, that's one of the first conversations that I have with people is finding out, you know, describe your dream house. What is it? What is it that you're looking for? What's non-negotiable? And then just sort of helping them educate themselves on the market.
So explaining it, Yep, that's good. So something else I've done, if it's like an extreme case, I've talked with Bridget about this too. Something I've done if it's an extreme case, like if they're just like, someone recently asked me, it's a client I sold in the past. They're like, I would like a duplex in this part of town for $350 or under, basically is what they said. I think it was like in Aurora or South Aurora, Centennial, Centennial area is what they're asking for. And so there definitely was not any options. There were in other parts of town, so I sent them those parts of town, kind of like what Mark was saying. If you stretched over to this area, or if you stretch your budget up to here, there's options. And she basically shot that down like, no, it needs to be here, it needs to be this price point. And from the last time I sold her, I know she'll wait however long because she'll be patient with it. So what I did is I went and looked at the path, however long you want to go back. past 3 years, past 5 years, whatever. I looked at the past 5 years of homes that have sold based on her criteria. So I said, I want to look in Centennial, the past 5 years of sold homes. Has any duplex sold in the past 5 years under 350? And the answer was no. And so that's powerful data to send her and to say, listen, I know you want that. That doesn't exist. And I know it doesn't exist because nothing like that has sold in the past 5 years in that area. So if you want something like that, you will either need to stretch on area or stretch on budget, but that's not possible. And so there are extreme circumstances where I'll use that data to help them out, to help them understand. Another client I had really wanted to lowball people. Like I'm talking 30% under. He wanted to lowball people. And it was mainly just because he had a really low budget. So his budget was like 190 and he was sending me over properties like at 260. Like, what about this one? You know? And so he gave me a little pushback right away. Like he was like, I was like, it's just not going to be realistic to get that house. And so his kind of attitude was, oh, no one ever accepts less than list price. And I was like, of course they do. And then I went and pulled the data. And in the data, you can look at list price to sold price. And you can see the average and you can see the lowest. And I showed him the lowest ever, like sold price to list price was this percentage. And you're asking me to go 10% less than that. That has never happened in our market and doesn't. And in fact, the average is way up here. And so that was powerful data for him to go, okay, now I get it. And so I think it's powerful to look backwards and go, not only is it my opinion that this doesn't happen, this never happens. But it's also helpful for you because sometimes you'll look backwards the past year or two and you'll go, oh, it does happen. It's just not possible right now. And so sometimes you're like, okay, then we just need to be patient. If you're willing to be patient, then we can do that. You know, that's something I'll do for that.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. I needed to hear that again, Tyler. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else with unrealistic clients? Was it mainly the criteria that we were talking about? Is there other stuff that was important to talk about? I mean, like we talked about your situation with that inspection objection resolution.
I fucking did so much for that.
Yeah.
I told them the best resolution. The seller was gonna buy them a new water heater, a new furnace. Like
they were gonna fix
clean out the
all the
chimney
time
because there was debris in it.
Yeah.
So like I could clean it off as a fire hazard. And like was gonna reseal all the windows that were like leaking air. Awesome resolution. My buyers just had cold feet and they weren't being upfront with me. But they still stuck. Yeah, they still stuck to it. I just saw them the other day. They still stuck to. Well, it just didn't make me feel comfortable that the seller would want to offer so much to us when there were backup offers, and we were up against other people. But we also had an appraisal clause and we went 12 above asking.
That's because I'm damn good at my job.
Yeah, so it's like you almost do your job so good that they think you're doing it bad.
Yeah. So what is your thought on that? I mean, like, as we thought about that, so basically, like, they asked for everything in the moon on inspection objection. The sellers agreed to do it all.
Yeah.
And then the buyers are still like, no, I'm out. So like, what is our lesson from that? Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, you really can't push them, and you're going to lose that rapport pretty quickly. And I was sending like novels trying to explain like, this is not going to happen on the next house. Like, this is super abnormal for our market. Like, I'm shocked that she said that. And almost like they were giving me so much pushback because they know that that's not a thing in our market. So they were almost like weary of like, why is the seller giving us so much stuff?
Why do they want to get out so
Why
bad?
does he want it like out from under his feet so bad that he's going to buy us a water heater and furnace? And like, if it's to save him 1 month of mortgage payment, you're already upside down on that because that's the cost of a water heater and furnace. Like, so even more. So and that made sense to me. So I just basically just said, you're totally right. I was operating in the sense that the resolution wasn't good enough for you, so I was pushing for more and more things. And so if you're just not comfortable with this, then we're out. Like, let's just terminate. And we've got time before their lease is up. They can go month to month. So I've kept that rapport, and they thanked me for that. And like now I'm closer to them than I was before. So it'll be fine. I'll get them under contract for something higher anyway. So.
Just pure skepticism.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think that kind of comes back to the, like, at what price would you want to buy this house? I think it finally just comes to, like, okay, what would the seller need to do for you to be comfortable, like, moving forward? And their answer was literally nothing. They couldn't do anything. I'm not going to move forward. And so like, if it's well, they need to do all this and it's unrealistic, then you could say that's unrealistic. But if you can boil it down to, okay, you're just not comfortable, you just don't want it, okay, then your expectations aren't unrealistic, you just don't want this house.
Yeah.
You know, and that was clearly the answer with these people. Sometimes you do just need to audit, like, are your expectations super realistic, or is this just not the one for you? You know, or is this just not the right time to buy for you, or whatever. Sometimes that is the reality.
Earnest money still go back to a client, for that.
We got out, we got out on inspection.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. In our situation, it does. But yeah, I think that's helpful. And I think it's important what you said, like, and Bridget, this is what you were saying up front. You want to be able to push back lovingly, but you also want to maintain that rapport with the client. I think like Natalia did that balance well of like.
Yeah, I didn't just like bend over and was like, okay, fine, yeah, we're out then. I like pushed.
She pushed hard, but not too hard that like she's going to turn them off and think that she's being salesy. And like it is in our best interest to push to make sure they understand what's realistic. And so you've got to explain, got to tell them if they're not being realistic. But then if they're like, you know, if they stick to their guns, they stick to their guns. You know.
What's your, just a classic coverall still, I mean, we talk a lot about the buyers, what happens when we have the unrealistic sellers who are getting over hopeful on the price of their home now, thinking, oh, everything should have 60 grand, I want 80 now.
You mean initially, like when they're setting the list price?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that? How do you approach a seller in that regard? Natalia just goes in and gets them under contract at that price anyways. But.
Okay, yeah, except for my listing right now, it's just sitting. Got 3 showings on it. Like,
We had that scenario recently.
oh man, maybe the third one want it.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts with that? Seller just has a super unrealistic. Mark, I know you and I talked about that recently. Mark, you had that example recently, Mark. You went to a listing appointment. The guy thought that it was worth this. You told me it was worth this. I mean, it didn't end up getting the listing, but I think sometimes that's the lesson.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you're going to have those people, and sometimes you just have to stick to your guns and remove yourself from the situation. There are going to be people that you're going to have to either not accept their business because you know it's not good business to accept, or you're going to have to fire yourself. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
like to
sticking to your guns. Like, I'm not here just to list your property. I'm here to sell your property.
Yeah, why am I going to take your listing just so I can take your listing and put a sign in your yard when I know it's not going to sell?
Yeah, that's
Sorry
fine.
about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was like the saying of like, I'm not in the business of getting collectibles. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, not just collecting listings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I really think it's you are hiring me to help you sell your property. This is what your property is going to sell for. You list it here, it's not going to sell. And like one of your most powerful marketing tools is the list price of your home. And so if you're going to list it up there, it's not going to sell. And like I can't be a partner in not helping you. I'm supposed to be your fiduciary. Like I'm supposed to work in your financial best interest. Listing here is not working in your financial best interest. And I think just like the most powerful thing you can do with the seller who's unrealistic on price is what Mark's saying, being willing to walk away, like being willing to say no to business. If you are willing to say no to business, then it's going to be powerful tool. Sometimes you will need to say no to the business. So I think that's the reality.
I think there's always also going to be someone else in the neighborhood who's doing the same thing, like overpriced, and then they're just chasing the market down. So then I'll pull that one up, whether it's like still active or sold.
Sure.
And then talk about like, look at them, they're literally chasing it down. Do you know these neighbors? Like, they're going to end up less than where they should be just because they started up higher.
That's
So
smart.
again, you're never going to win.
That's smart. You don't just have to tell them like that's the reality. That's what's going to happen. There's a comp that you can show them. Someone else has done this, right? So there's inevitably some comp where you can say, see, that's what they did on this listing. They listed too high. See, they started there. They dropped it here. They dropped it here. They've been listed for 6 weeks. Is that what you want?
Yeah, it's like a decent house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the longer days on market, the more people are willing to lowball you below that. And I always tell them too, I'd much rather start you down here and underprice you, know that we're most likely in this market going to get multiple offers, pricing you back up.
Right.
Than have to chase you back down and only get few.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay. Yeah, that's my thought with sellers. I think when you have the sellers and there's and it's listed and it's not selling, then I think it's a little bit more matter of fact, like it's a little bit about just talking through like, okay, it can only be one of 2 or 3 things. Like it's either our marketing's not good enough, or we're priced too high, or it's not showing well, or we need to wait longer. And so I think just kind of like my favorite approach and stuff like that is like, it can only be these 4 options. So let's talk about them, and go, not this reason, not this, and this, and this reason. So it's got to be this or this. And so that's typically my approach there with some of that stuff. Cool.
Do you guys build in price reductions up front? To say, all right, Mr. Seller, I'm willing to list it for 10 grand above right now, but if in 2 weeks it happens, I don't have immediately drop to this, and you're signing on to it.
That's a bold thing, yeah, like talking about it up front for sure.
Mark's saying he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just put a date on it, and then they're like, okay, 2 weeks, yeah. that's-
Especially if they want to be unrealistic or less than realistic. I will say, you know what, I'll list it for that price, but you got to agree after 10 days, you know, the market's going to tell us whether or not we're overpriced, underpriced, or at price. So if the market is telling us that we're overpriced, and it'll tell us that because we won't get any offers by 10 days or a week or 2 weeks or whatever that time is, let's agree up front to drop it down by X number of dollars.
Yeah. And then I think that's the ultimate test. Like if they're willing to do that, okay, great. Then I'll take your listing, and you're also willing to let me sell it when push comes to shove. And if they're not willing to do that, then that's when you got to be willing to say, like, listen, if you're not willing to do that, then I don't think I'm going to be able to sell your house, and I'm not sure I'm the agent for you. So yeah, that's good. That's good.
And sometimes their reasons of why they're trying to get out can come back to it too. Like just the way that we do it with buyers, you do with sellers too. Like, okay, you're under contract at a house in Texas, like you don't really have time to walk around and like list it 25 above asking.
Yeah.
So we list it under, and I'll get you the contract before you go on the market.
Yeah. Yeah, and the note on, someone just put on the group chat, like also the appraisal needs to come in, you know?
Yeah.
And so you gotta understand, like, listen, it's not about what I think it's worth or not. Like at the end of the day, if the appraiser doesn't also think it's worth this much, then you're gonna end up having to drop the price anyways. So like an appraiser's gonna look at the same comps I looked at. Just because you think you're worth 40,000 more, does he think the same thing? It's not just as a buyer willing to pay it, but yeah. So that's good. Cool. All right. What I want to just encourage us, the last thing I want to encourage us with is these conversations are one of the main reasons why Slack exists for our team, is for us to have these conversations over Slack, to collaborate on stuff. So when you guys have these questions or you have these issues, throw it out there. Like, just throw it out. I'm having this super unrealistic seller right now. What do you guys think? And that's really what that's meant for, is masterminding on there. And then Slack, you have the ability to direct message anybody on Slack. So if you know, like, Mark had some good things to say about something today, and you want his advice on something, shoot him a message. Or on the Relevate Team website, there is a link to everybody's cell phones and emails. So you could also do that too if you want. RelevateTeam.com, there's the team contacts. So my encouragement is just let's continue this conversation. As you guys have issues or even things that are working come up, share them. And then we can keep kind of this mastermind going. So, cool. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.